Good morning. Um, Welcome to today's edition of Yesterday Daily. For me, last night I think one of you asked me a question about relationship. I think he's having issues communicating with his fiance um, in their relationship. And while I don't have all the details, I could only point him to a particular resource. So I thought I could just do a video to mention about 3 or 4 resources that were very helpful for my wife and I before, in our journey of from saying yes, I would marry you to eventually saying yes before men and God, which was a journey of about 4 years and some months. So there are a good number of resources that we went through together, and this is just a short video to point you people in that direction. I know there are a good number of us that are already married. I know there are a good number of us that are in a relationship and yet to be married. I know there are a good number of us that are freshly married or about to get married. So I think it's going to be helpful for some of us. The first one is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That's a book written by one Dr. John Gray. It's over 20 years, but I think he has revised it a number of times afterwards. You could actually find almost the whole length of the audio book of the first original version, or the first edition, if you will, on YouTube if you just search for Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. The book is about trying to it's about trying to point out the major differences in manhood and womanhood in that sense, and how that plays out in a relationship. There are so many people that are in a relationship that don't understand the simple basic principle of the fact that there are just some things that guys do, there are just some things that ladies do, and until you understand those dynamics, it's possible that you continually have conflicts in your relationship. So that's one. It was very useful for my wife and I when just a few months before our wedding, when there was this big disagreement between the two of us. And yeah, the book came in very handy for me then, so I was able to understand what she was trying to tell me through the lens of interacting and engaging with that book. That's one. The second book, which was actually the first one we had to go through together, was Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. That's another very useful material. It's on understanding how both of you express love. It became a necessity, or a compulsory read for me when, right from the beginning of our courtship in 2012, I could tell almost immediately after 1 or 2 times of going out together that we speak different love languages. So I knew that I needed to understand her for her, and for how she expresses love, for me to be able to understand and relate with her. So yeah, Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And he wrote that in different ways. He wrote love languages for singles, he wrote 5 love languages for men, he wrote 5 love languages for women, and all sorts. I think there was even one for teenagers and stuff like that. So yeah, that's also a very useful material. The third material is actually an audio series by Brogbiliakoni. A good number of you might have heard the name, some of you might never have. He's a Nigerian minister of God. He doesn't like to be called pastor, so we just refer to him as Brother Gbile. And he did an audio series of messages, which I think he preached on the radio years back, on relationship, right from knowing how to hear God, to getting to know the person, to confirming that the person is the one, to how do you propose, to what happens in the courtship, in the marriage. It took, I think it's like a 8 or 9 series of long messages, like almost 50 minutes each, thereabout. But it was a very helpful resource. Again, this was one of the first materials that my wife and I consulted. I'll try and see if I could compile these resources together and provide links to them if I still have them, but I'm not sure. The hard drive where I used to have most of those things, it got stolen when I was in Bradford, so I'll still check and see if I could find links to some of these things and give. So those are 3. The fourth one, which I would strongly recommend that you wait very close to your marriage before you read, is The Act of Marriage, because it's about the sexual dimension to marriage. You don't have a business reading Act of Marriage if you're not going to be getting married in a year. in all honesty. Fine, you can if you think you could take in the information and not do anything with it. But it's not the kind of information you want to just take in for the sake of taking in. It's the kind of information you want to take in and want to start seeing what that looks like in reality. So yeah, for my wife and I, we journeyed through Act of Marriage together about a couple of months before our wedding, and that was a very helpful resource. It's written by Tim and Beverly LaHaye. They've been married for 53 years now, and I think the two of them are still alive. Yeah, that was the man that co-authored Left Behind series with Jerry B. Jenkins. So yeah, it's a fantastic book on the sexual dimension, especially. That's why it's called The Act, not the heart, The Act of Marriage. So those are 4 resources. Let me see if I can add one more to the mix. Oh yeah, we journeyed through Andy Stanley's book earlier in this year, and that's also a very helpful resource, especially for singles that are about to go into a relationship, and of course as well for those already in a relationship. That's Love, Sex and Dating, New Rules for Love, Sex and Dating by Andy Stanley. If you've been on this group long enough, at least for the last couple of months, that was the last book we read before we moved on to the book we're reading now, which is What on Heart Am I Here For? So yeah, those are 5 very helpful resources. Again, I'll quickly do a recap of them. I know I've spent so long a time. The first is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray, and then I talked about Brooke Billy's relationship series or marriage series. I talked about 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. I talked about Andy Stanley's New Rules for Love, Sex and Dating, and then finally Tim and Beverly LaHaye's The Act of Marriage. So if you could lay your hands on any of these resources, they are classics in my experience. There's one more that I could have had it, but I've not read it myself. It's after I got married I started hearing about it. It's called Fit to be Tied by Bill Hybels. I know Bill Hybels writes very well, and practically he wrote Courageous Leadership, and a number of very good books. He wrote Simplify. He wrote just some very wonderful books that I've read. So I know he's a very fantastic writer and speaker. So he expresses his points in a way that you can really relate with it. But I have not read Fit to be Tied. I think he co-authored it with his wife. So if you could lay your hands on that as well, that's also a very good read. So yeah, those are 6 basically resources that you could use if you are about to or in or a relationship or about to get married or already in marriage. I think it's going to address you at different points of your journey. So yeah, that's what I have for you today. God bless you. Bye.